Don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 51 of the Take One podcast. As always, I am your host, Michael Bish, and I'm super excited to have Miss Marie back on the episode for a topic that we don't really talk about much on the podcast, and that's true crime. I think I've touched on one story before, but outside of that, it's always just been, movies and everything else. But this is a documentary of a true crime story that has just captivated the world now, and it happened a few years ago, and we're going to dive all into that. But American Nightmare is the title of the documentary that we'll be diving into, that is streaming now on Netflix. But before we go any further, Marie, welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing?
I am doing good. Thank you so much for having me on again. I missed being on here, and I'm excited to talk about this. I'm not really a huge true crime person. I don't really watch a lot of true crime stuff or listen to podcasts or anything. And I think a big part of that is like when I get really into true crime stuff, I get really paranoid. So I have to like take breaks. But this one I was very engrossed in and got it all out in one bang because it was so hooked ya.
It is. And we're going to dive into that. But you've been doing big things. You're like on all kinds of people's podcasts now. You're going on IG lives on people's IGs. Like Miss Marie, like, you are big time now. How's that? How's that been, honestly, though? Because I remember, when you first started the podcast that you're on now, and teaming up with Not a Strong Start, and like it's just grown tremendously. So how has like all that been for you, like in the past year and a half?
Yeah, it's been pretty much just coming. I think my first episode of Marie Plays It All on the Not a Strong Start podcast was like it was like 3 days ago, was like a year. So it's been almost exactly a year.
Okay.
It's been fun. It's been, hard work. I have learned a lot, like how to edit and how to use Photoshop and like Premiere Pro. And like, it's been a lot, but it's been so fun and so worth it. And anytime people ask me to like be on their show, I'm like, hell yeah. Like, of course, like, any chance I get to talk about movies or TV shows or geek stuff or horror, I'm down. And to meet new people and, learn what their thoughts are about stuff. Like, it's fun. It's been really fun and exciting.
We're all geeks and we're proud of it. Like, I definitely feel like the older I've gotten, the more I've like embraced that. And it's like, I don't give a damn what people think. I'm going to love and do exactly what I want to do. I think that comes with like growth and age as well too.
Oh yeah. You're just like more accepting of yourself, and then you find other people. You're like, all my fellow geeks, and then you have a little like, community, and you're like, I feel welcome and safe now to be myself.
And that's exactly what I love about Instagram. Like, I have met so many good people on there, great friends like you, Kevin, and so many others, like just through Instagram and enjoying the things that we love. Like, social media can be a great, powerful tool if you use it in the right way.
Oh, definitely.
So, first off, I want to jump into like any type of movies that you have seen lately. Obviously, American Nightmare, we'll jump into that. But have you seen any movies or anything here recently that like you really enjoyed or really just did not like?
Ooh, yeah. I know I have. Okay, well, they're older movies, but I've watched them for the first time.
That's fine. That's like the best thing ever, by the way.
It is. So recently for my last Replays All episode, I watched the Into the Spider-Verse. I was forced to watch it.
Yes. Blown away.
I've already seen it twice since watching it, and it is like I cried. It was so amazing. I love that movie. Loved it.
Yes. It's one of the best movies like ever. It's like it's so great. And that's the only episode I have not listened of Marie Plays It All yet. So I need to listen to that because I'm excited to hear. Was it just your first time watching it, right? Correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Because he gives you movies and you go back, watch them. Yep. Okay. Just for those people who don't know. Yeah.
Yes,
I mean, So were you into anime at all? Like any type of animation films? I know you have kids, so I know, but
Mhm.
like as an adult, were you like ever intrigued into them?
I'm not opposed to them at all. I don't watch a whole bunch. But like the Super Mario movie was like one of my favorite movies of last year. I just loved it so much. But the animation in this movie is complete artwork, is art form. Like it's just stunning, beautiful. It just blew me away. I'm not really into comic book stuff. I knew nothing about
Yeah.
Spider-Man too much. It doesn't matter. It made me want to learn about Spider-Man. I was like, oh my God, Spider-Man seems awesome. Like, this is so great. I loved everything about that movie. Spoiler alert for my late to the game replays all episode. Usually I say at the end of whether or not I love it or not. And I blew me away.
Blown away. When I saw the title and what movie y'all were going over, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like I cannot wait to listen to this because it's like one of my favorite movies, literally of all time. That has come like in it. The fact that it's on the newer side, it came out just a few years ago. Like, are you excited? You got to be stoked to watch Across the Spider Verse now, right?
Yes, I am very excited to watch it. I still
Have
haven't watched it yet,
Have you
but I can
watched it?
see
Okay,
it's
okay,
no,
okay,
no, no. But
okay.
I need to maybe like this weekend or something. I have to because it's just so good. Oh,
It's so good, and like not to dive too deep into it, but like it's hard to explain if you haven't seen it because the art in it is just phenomenal. Oh my god, it's just such it's so beautifully shot. And in both movies, one of the things that I love, and this isn't a spoiler, but just the real life family character development in both movies as well is like what really hits home for me. Like it's just all around, it's so good. I know they're going 3 movies in, so they're working on the
ooh.
third now, and I cannot wait for that one. And I can't wait for you to watch Across the Spider Verse. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
I have no doubt that I will. But Michael, let me tell you something though, real quick. I don't know how you feel about this movie, but I did watch an extremely well-loved cult classic movie for the
Mm,
very first time from the early 2000s that I've never seen before. And I was like, people love this movie. I've been told by people over the years, gotta watch this movie, gotta watch this movie. Um, and I finally watched a movie, and it was Donnie Darko. My first
never,
time ever
I
watching
never
it.
seen it. Never seen it
Oh,
myself. Never seen it.
okay.
Never seen it.
Okay.
Do I
I
need to
did
watch
not
it?
like it. I
Okay.
didn't like it.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I know there's people out there that love Donnie
There's a
Darko. Maybe it just
lot of hype around it. A lot of
yeah,
hype
maybe
around
it
it.
just didn't age well though. Like maybe because it's like early 2000s, maybe it didn't age well. Maybe watching it back then, it would have been like, you know how girls felt about The Craft? And
Oh yeah.
maybe this is how
Yeah.
guys felt about Donnie Darko. I don't know, but like The Craft aged pretty well. I watched it the other night, but Donnie Darko, it wasn't for
Yeah.
me. I'm
Probably not
sorry,
so
but
much. I'll watch it. I'll give it a shot just to see. But yeah, that is a cult classic. There's a couple out there that I have not seen that will probably shock some people.
mhm.
Um, and we've talked about some different movies or different topics in general as far as for the Take One podcast. I know we got one coming up. Spoiler alert for It Follows. I'm interested to hear your opinion on it for watching it the second time. We also talked about, I want to believe we talked about our top 10 most disappointing movies, horror movies, or top 10. I can't remember what it was. Did I run that by you or no? I can't
I don't
remember.
you did top 10 favorite, but I didn't know
Did
top
I?
10 disappointing. Ooh, add
No,
Donnie
it was
Darko to that list.
I can't remember what it was. It was
Mhm.
there's been several. Okay, I bring that up because it probably was on my mind this morning. Like I was on YouTube just scrolling around, and for some reason, a Halloween Ends video popped up for me.
Mhm.
And I remember I have not seen it but one time in the theater, and I remember Kevin going back and watching it and saying that it settled a little bit better with him as far as like the storytelling, not the Michael Myers part. And I'm like, I couldn't exactly remember what Kevin said, so I went to his letterbox, and even though he said he liked it a little more, he only gave it like a half a star more, or like it's still very low on his list, and rightfully so. Um, but I was just thinking about it. Got me thinking about movies that like I was super excited for to come out that ended up coming out and was just like super disappointing, and that was one of them
Ooh.
for sure. And I was like, that would be a pretty good list to make because I have a
Ooh,
few.
I already came up with a whole bunch right now while you're talking. I was like, yep, that one. Oh, that one. Ooh,
Yeah.
this one too. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Or if it's along the lines of what you said, like movies that have a lot of hype behind them that you haven't seen yet, and you watch it for the first time, you're like, I don't know about that. Like, no offense, not throwing any shade here. I just don't get the hype behind Skinamarink. I don't. I'm sorry.
You know what? Even though I don't even want to say I really enjoy you hadn't really enjoy. I understand why people wouldn't like it. 100% understand. It's not really a movie. It's a feeling. It's like an
Yeah,
experience. It's not really even a movie, and it's way too long. I mean, like a 20-minute short would have been fine. I know that's kind of how
sure.
it started, but it didn't really need to be full length feature. But I appreciate it for what it is artistically, but I totally get why people wouldn't like it. 100%.
And then there's movies that I just never were really interested in watching it for whatever reason, and I ended up loving it. Like the Blair Witch Project is like one of my favorites of all time now.
Oh, is
So
it? Do you have proof
it
of how much
is.
you like it? Do you have
Yeah,
proof
so
now?
I went and got a tattoo. I'm a part of the cult.
Yay!
Yep, I'm a part of the cult. Um, Now we just need Kev to get his.
And then we spend Triforce, and then when we like combine them all, it's like a
Yeah,
whole like
it's like
Blair Witch forest opens up
yeah,
realm.
some superpower that we get tossed
Yeah.
into. Honestly, this is exactly how you avoid the Blair Witch yourself.
Hmm.
That's the key to it. And I'm giving y'all viable information right here. So
Hmm.
go get
It
Brandon.
works. It
Go get
works.
Brandon.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so let's dive into American Nightmare. I'm excited to talk about this. Did you, because our episode changed, where we're going to talk about It Follows first, but this
Mm.
American Nightmare documentary was popping up all over my Facebook feed, literally everywhere. And I want to ask you, before asked you about it, have you heard? Did you hear about it? Did you hear people talking about it, or not really?
No, I didn't know what the story was. I kept seeing on my Netflix it popping up, like just the poster cover art for it, and I didn't know what it was. And then my husband started watching it, and he would come and tell me a little about it. Like he was like halfway through the first episode telling me about it, and I was like, he's like, "Wait, do you want to watch it?" I'm like, "Yes." So we restarted it
I love
and then we
that.
watched all three in a row. Um, but I knew nothing about it, and I don't remember hearing anything about the story or anything, so I had no idea.
Yeah, that was another question too, because I had heard nothing about this story like at
Mhm.
all. Like I don't know if I was in a cave or what I was doing when this happened. Um, because it was, I believe it was in 2015, if I'm correct. Yeah,
I think
2015
so.
is when all this occurred. But I don't remember hearing about it. But all of a sudden, I just start seeing my Facebook flood with this and like American Nightmare is crazy. If you haven't watched this, like it was just people updating their statuses left and right, and it's just a lot of true crime stuff that happens with. Just because I feel like a lot of people are so indulged in true crime. So you get a lot of these documentaries that come out and people are just like so involved with it. Um, but I was like, man, I keep hearing about it. I keep hearing about it and how crazy it was. And I knew nothing about the story as well. So not only did I not hear about it, like I didn't even know what the documentary was about. I didn't watch any preview. I didn't watch anything. I was like, I'm gonna go into this blind. And that's one thing that's hard for me to do these days is to go into movies and all kinds of stuff blind. Like I went and saw The Iron Claw recently, which was really good, but I went into it blind. And I think that helps a lot. And I just don't go into movies blind a lot because one, I'm super impatient, especially if it's a movie I'm looking forward to. Like I gotta see the trailer. Like, but I've like discovered not watching these trailers and kind of going in blind and not knowing what is gonna happen kind of helps. Have you ever do you like going in blind and stuff?
I have I definitely have noticed that there is a benefit to going in blind because
True.
sometimes trailers and stuff can be completely misleading and you can think this is going to be great or this is going to be a certain type of movie and then you get there and you're like this isn't what. So to have your own assessments and judgments of something on your own without it being influenced by anything I think is better. So I do like watching trailers sometimes, especially like you say, if it's something I'm really looking forward to, you want to watch it. But I think that not watching trailers and going in blind is better in a lot of ways because there's no expectations that way.
Yeah. Agreed.
Mhm.
And I want to put a disclaimer out here before we go any further. Like, we're going to dive deep into this. So if you have not seen American Nightmare or you don't know anything about it, go ahead and log off the podcast and then come back after you watch it, because there's no way that we can't talk about any spoilers here. And it
No.
is a wild ride. And we would love for you to experience that on your own, just like we did. So spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it, go watch it and then come back. How First off, shock factor. How shocked were you with how the story ended up playing out?
Huh. 100% shocked. There's some parts of it where I was like, "Oh, that doesn't surprise me," which we'll get into. But what was revealed actually happened, like the truth, I thought it was shocking because the way they make the episodes, the first like the 30
Mhm.
episodes, and how they like the installments of it, it's like your mind is like, "Oh, I know what happened. It was this. Oh no, wait. Oh no, it must have been this. Oh no," and then you're like, "Wait, it was actually this." It's the truth is way more bizarre than anything your mind could think of,
Yeah, and I think
honestly.
that's a great way to put it. I think it's so shocking. It's like very hard to believe, and that plays a huge factor in how this case and how these episodes in the documentary go about. And I'll be honest, because I didn't know the story and I didn't know anything, there were pieces of how they kind of, to your point, put the episode where I'm like, that's a little fishy. I don't know if I totally believe that. And then you see them on screen and you see the seriousness in their voice and their expressions on their face, and like I'm just going back and forth. It's a roller coaster ride of all kinds of emotions. So I'm gonna kind of read a little bit of what the synopsis of kind of what happened on night one. This case involves multiple people, but the two people that are going to be in question are going to be Denise Huskins and Aaron Quinn. They were accused in 2015 of being a real life Gone Girl case. And if you haven't seen that movie, we'll talk about it and kind of how that plays out a little bit and more. But on March 23rd, 2015, it was discovered and put out there that Denise and Aaron their home was invaded late at night, and Denise ended up being kidnapped. And I don't want to. We'll kind of unfold the story from there, but that's kind of how the episode starts out, and how this wild ride of the case starts out. Well, I would say wild ride of the episode, because we know that at the end, this case way earlier in time for multiple
Yeah.
reasons. But
Yeah.
okay, so obviously, we talked about the home invasion on March 23rd. What when you first hear about this and you hear about Aaron's explanation of what took place that night, did you believe what he said? And if you want to hit on some highlights of some of the stuff he said, feel free to. If not, I will. But how did you feel about Aaron's first? I don't want to say confession, but because it's not first, like, explanation of what happened that night.
Okay. This is how editing and everything can influence your beliefs and what you think is the truth. So the way they start it all, they really go into the whole backstory of Aaron and I'm sorry, I'm blanking her name already.
Denise.
Denise.
Yeah.
Aaron and Denise's relationship and his ex-girlfriend and how they are fighting over the ex-girlfriend and how he's been texting her, and then
Mhm.
that night they're talking about the ex-girlfriend and the problems they're having, and then when the person comes in to kidnap Denise, they say, "Oh, we thought you were Andrea, the ex-girlfriend." And I'm thinking that's a little convenient that they're having like a fight about her, and that same night she's getting kidnapped with the intent of having the ex-girlfriend kidnapped. Like, I was like, this is too weird. Like, one of them is staging it to make someone jealous
Mhm.
or to remove one out of the picture. Maybe it's the ex-girlfriend. I'm like, why is she even part of the story at all at this point? Why are they even telling us
Yeah.
about the ex-girlfriend in the first episode? She has to be a factor in this. So right away, I'm thinking, oh, it's the boyfriend's doing something. And he's so dry when he talks.
He
Yeah, they
is.
came in and they had wetsuits and they had this. And I'm like, dude, you don't seem very upset right now. But then you realize later why. But I at first I honestly was like, no, he's had something to do with it. It's planned. Maybe him and Andrea, the ex-girlfriend, are planning this. They want to get her out of the picture so they can be together. Like, it's crazy where your mind goes. So
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't go into like how they were kidnapped, but that part to me was the most like I would assume that he had something to do with it, or so it was planned. Like someone staged it. That's what I was thinking.
100%. And spoiler alert, like still the ex-girlfriend, I don't know how she comes into this situation at all. Because it's like they used her to play with our minds a little bit. Now, granted, the
Yeah.
kidnapper ended up coming out and saying that it was supposed to be for the ex-girlfriend. So I'm still don't understand, and I don't think we ever get an answer of why it was supposed to be her.
No, don't know.
Um, but anyways, I wanna say if I remember correctly, and I watched all 3 episodes late last night, because I couldn't stop watching them. I was like, I'm gonna watch 1 episode and then I will watch the other 2 in the morning because they're only like 45 minutes, so not terribly long. You can get through them pretty quickly. But I was intrigued, especially with the way that episode 1 ended and who we get teased to hear from in episode 2. Um, anyways, yeah, so I guess outside of what you said, the thing that kind of I was like that was very weird was just the way that they were kidnapped
Yes.
as well. I want to say that uh they they Aaron said that he woke up, some lasers were kind of pointing in his face and both of their faces. Um I believe they ended up getting tied up with what are they called?
Like zip ties.
Zip ties. Yep. Ended up getting tied
Mhm.
up with zip ties. But the real funny situation or weird thing here was the fact that both of them had like goggles on, some type of like swimming goggles or some type of goggles that impaired their vision. I believe they were like maybe taped over or something like that as well. Um, and basically, he said that that a camera was set up in his house or in the room that they were kidnapped out of, and the kidnapper said, if you go to the police or anything like that, I will harm Denise. And but basically they take Denise away, because
Mm.
also one of the things that was that kind of had me scratching my head was, I believe he said there were 3 people that he remembers seeing 3 people involved, correct?
Right. I have thoughts as to what this is about though after when we get closer to the end.
Okay, I'm
I do,
intrigued to hear that.
I don't think that there were 3 people there. I think this guy worked alone,
Me
and
too.
I have
I agree.
reasons why, but yeah, and that they're in wetsuits. The whole story was so.
Because they get put in wetsuits, right? Like,
No, they don't get put in wetsuits. The kidnappers
oh,
were in
we're
wetsuits.
wearing wetsuits, all
Yes.
black. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. It was all a very bizarre scenario. Why
and
would they
it's
be in wetsuits? Did they come from the water? Did they come from a boat? Why would they make you drink this stuff that anyone could have on hand in their medicine cabinet, and they're just making you drink
yeah.
NyQuil? Like, why?
They were saying they
Um,
were drugged and sedated and all this stuff.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it was just very weird, and we're hearing the real life conversation of his explanation to the police, because we get the regular footage that is shown, or you know, the interaction from police with Aaron the next morning. And that's another caveat where we're going to go to next, is the next morning. So Aaron ends up waking up, and I believe he receives a text message from the kidnapper. Yeah, so bizarre, so weird,
Yeah.
about not going to the police, that if he goes to police, you know, he put a camera up, if he sees anything crazy or he goes to the police, you know, something will happen, and this and that. And um Aaron just does nothing. He just waits
Yeah. Yeah.
for, was it
Hours.
hours? Yeah,
Like
hours
3
on
hours.
hours. Yeah, he waits like
Mhm.
3 hours after waking up, knowing that Denise had been kidnapped at this point. And then basically in his words, he's like, I don't know what to do at this point, but I trust the police, was exactly what he
Mhm.
said. and he ends up calling the police. And we actually get body cam footage of the police arriving to the house, and they're walking through the house, and yeah, they end up bringing Aaron in, and that's when he kind of gives the explanation of everything that we kind of just explained. He gave it multiple times.
Mhm.
He did not change his story one bit. Everything was the same. And he was there for 18 hours before contacting a lawyer. And the reason that he contacted a lawyer, because the police didn't believe him. The police didn't believe the story at all, accused him of all kinds of stuff. Whether, I mean, that officer Mustard, I'll never forget that name, little bald head ass. I will never forget his name, because it's just, I don't know. It's just like, you think of a police officer, the look of like what a shitty police officer could be, and it's him. It's Officer Mustard himself, and he was just listening to what Aaron said, and then after some time, he basically went into accusatory mode, where he is just coming at Aaron on all kinds of situations that could have happened. Did you drag her out of the house? There's blood in the house. All of this shit. And Aaron is just like, never comes up off his story, no matter
Yeah.
how much the FBI that ends up getting involved grills Aaron, and this detective grills Aaron. He never comes up off of his story. I just think that, like, the fact that he was getting grilled as much as he was, who knows if he got food? They never covered that. Maybe they fed him, maybe they didn't. But 18 hours to be grilled that way, and that just came to a point where, after all the stuff that they accused him of, he was like, "Look, I guess I need a lawyer at this point." And he finally ended up getting a lawyer. He came in basically saying, if you're not going to sit here and arrest Aaron, you took all the blood samples, the DNA tests, the swabs, whatever, you did all of that. If you're not going to arrest my client, you need to release him. And they ended up releasing him at that point. But what did you think of that whole interrogation with Aaron and the
Oh,
police?
Michael. First of all, Matt Mustard is a monster. Let's just throw that
Matt
out here.
Mustard.
Same with that other cop that came in and gave him the lie detector test. He's also a
Oh,
monster.
yeah. There's a story behind that. Do you remember that? With I guess we can go ahead and say it, that detective ended up used to date Aaron's ex-girlfriend.
I don't know if that was him, the guy who gave him the lie detector, because I know
Oh,
one
no,
of
no.
them did,
It
and the
was
other
the
FBI
FBI.
guy.
The FBI agent was the one. There you go.
Again, how weird can
Yeah.
the story get? But anyway, when they are interrogating him, okay, innocent people break under that pressure, because if someone's yelling at you and telling you, like, you did this and you did this, it's so mentally manipulative where you'd be like, maybe I did do it. People have actually confessed to crimes that they did not commit because of the pressure. And they're like, I don't know. And they've been in there for so long. It's late at night or early in the morning. They don't know what's going on. People just break. It is disgusting. These people should be put in jail. Matt Mustard, when he says to him, I need to figure out how to make you look like the monster. It's like, he's
Literally.
telling him, even if you aren't guilty, my job is to make you look like the monster. They don't care if you're innocent. They don't care if about the actual case itself. All they care about is having someone to blame, put them in jail, case closed, done. It was disgusting the way they treated him,
It
and I'm so
was.
proud of him for not breaking. Like, what a strong dude. Like, I have
Yeah, I
goosebumps
mean,
thinking about, like, that
and
guy.
yeah, I mean, and credit to him, because like you said, so many people, especially innocent people, like, they break under that pressure. Like, you just can't handle that at that point. You've been there for so long. You'll say whatever just to get out of that closed off, tight, small room. It just happens. I mean,
Mhm.
it's happened many times, like you said, and the fact that they showed that raw video of that interrogation, what was said, and what stuck with me the most, before we go any further, was the fact that how Aaron was in that situation. When the officer stepped out of the room and you see him down on the floor in the corner, cradled, or laying across the two chairs, cradled up, like, it's so sad. Like, it's so
Mhm.
sad, because you have this man who is, given his side of this of what happened, and they're just not listening to anything. They have
No.
a predetermined, you know, what had happened, and they're sticking with that, and they never came up off of it. They never came up off of it, and that's just honestly the sad truth. The sad truth. Okay. Basically, that's kind of what the first episode is. The backstory of Aaron and Denise's relationship and what happened on the night of the kidnapping and home invasion and the interrogation of Aaron by I think it's Valero Police or something like that. By the police department, and him ending up getting a lawyer and getting released. And then before the episode ends, actually, no, I believe that this is part of the episode too. It's when Denise ends up coming back home after being kidnapped.
It shows the footage of her walking to her dad's door, and you're like, what? But then right before it ends, though, you're like, what?
Yep. Because at this point, especially for me, I don't know what the hell happens in this story. To me, any type of kidnapping, I'm thinking this woman is dead. At this point, I don't know if Aaron did it. Like, I know nothing at this point. All I know is I was upset with the way he was treated, whether guilty or not. At that point, like, it was just sickening to watch, honestly. But yes, we move off from after Aaron was released, and we see surveillance video of Denise arriving to her family home in Huntington Beach, which is 400 miles away or 100 miles away, something like that. It is plus 100 miles away, south of Valeria. And yeah, you see this video, you see this street camera of Denise just walking up the street.
Chill, casually walking up the street, some bags. I'm still confused about the duffel bags. Like, why she has duffel bags, I'm kind of confused about, and you don't really know why she has like bags with her. But yeah, that's what you see, and you're like, wow, she looks pretty calm. She looks pretty chill. Maybe she staged it.
Yeah. So yes, it was about 400 miles away in Huntington Beach, and that was about 2 days later. So about 48 hours later, she returns to her family home. Unharmed. Well, I don't want to say unharmed, but alive. We'll say that. She arrived alive, very calm, demeanor very calm, and I'm like, at this point, you got to think of everything that's transpired. I'm like, oh, this is a setup. Like, this could be a real life Gone Girl situation, because I know nothing to the story, especially up to this point, other than what we explained. So you see that on camera. You see her get home safe. And yeah, that's kind of how the episode really ends. And before we go to the credits or anything like that, we see Denise pop up on the screen in this documentary. So we know that we're going to hear her talk in the next episode. And I'm like,
my God,
what's that? 12:15? Can't go to bed now. I'm like, next.
Nope.
Next episode. And the next episode opens up with Denise kind of getting into the whole situation of her side of the story. So episode 1 was Aaron's story. Episode 2 was Denise's story. And episode 3 is the others. And we're gonna dive into that. But do you want to start off with episode 2 and kind of what plays out? Are you cool with that?
Yes. So right away when they start her off, you're skeptical of everyone in the beginning, because it's too bizarre of a story. You think, like, but then it's also like, it's so bizarre how it might be true. It's one of those things where it's like, why would these people fake these exact elements in the story? Why would you think to put wetsuit? Like, all these things are just like, who would think that? But then it's so well planned out, and their story is so cohesive that it's like, this maybe sounds rehearsed. But
can I back up just one quick second before I let you go any further? Because there is something that sticks out in episode 1 that I totally missed and I totally forgot. And it kind of like made me even think more that this was a hoax or a setup. Because while she is away and kidnapped, a voice memo of Denise is delivered to one of the lawyers, I believe, or one of the
No,
people.
no, a
Who is it
journalist of all
Oh, a
people.
journalist. That's who it was. A journalist delivered to a journalist, I think to his email. And it was we got to hear the live recording.
Mhm.
And it was Denise. Obviously, it was so calm. She was so calm, like it made you be like, "Wow, like this is very weird." And we're gonna have moments like this throughout especially the next episode where it is very weird. Like you're gonna
Yeah.
say that to yourself, and basically the voice memo said that, "Hi, I am Denise. I was kidnapped, but I'm safe, or I'm fine," I believe is the
Yeah.
word. So it basically
Mhm.
went like that pretty much. Maybe a couple other words in there, but it was so calm.
Mhm.
You couldn't hear any type of squeak in her voice. Tone was the same throughout the entire sentence and a half. And I just thought that like I can't believe I forgot about that, but it made me. It's vital to like how you're feeling throughout this episode, because it's like, what kidnapper would do that in any type of way, unless he was 100% going for ransom and money and stuff like that. So I mean, that was one that I wanted to leave out. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but it kind of
Mhm.
flashed back into my head that I thought it was
Mhm.
important to kind of touch on.
Well, and also you mentioned the whole ransom thing. Apparently, the ransom was 15
That
grand. It's
too.
like
You're right. Yeah.
that's nothing. Like that. Like that's
Yes.
not for human life in exchange. You want 15 grand. Like this is why it all seems so bizarre. Um, but when she starts telling the story, and she's talking about the kidnapping, it's exactly the same as what Aaron said, and she's telling the story, and then once she starts getting into the the details of the actual kidnapping and like being transported, where she was, what she felt, what she saw, what she's trying to remember, she's talking, and I'm like, this is pretty convincing. I feel like I believe this chick. Like she's just then you're thinking, well, it's Gone Girl. Like they're calling her Gone Girl, and anyway, um, and when she starts, I don't know how far you want me to get into her whole kidnapping scenario.
We can talk about it all. Like we can yeah, I mean, it's episode 2, whatever you want to talk about as far as her kidnapping. I mean, I'm definitely up for that. We can dive deep into it.
Okay, well, the police at this point are trying to make her basically a suspect instead of a victim. Thank you, Matt Mustard. He goes to the parents' house. Uh, this was one of the most disturbing aspects of the whole show, and what happened in this whole process is when Matt Mustard, this monster, is interviewing the parents. He asks the mom, or the mom and the brother. He asks the mom if about her childhood and if she was attention seeking or whatever. And the mom brings up her past and how she was abused. Can we say sexually? She was sexually abused when she was a kid. And then right away, I'm like, oh God, this poor girl. But then Matt Mustard says sometimes people want to relive that part of their past for the thrill of it.
For the
And
thrill. It's so
I,
sickening. So
I'm thinking,
sickening.
the thrill of it, like, I don't know, I've seen some documentaries of people with like schizophrenia and everything like that, and usually, not, I don't want to say usually, but I've heard that when this happens to people, some people, they disassociate and they have the different personalities basically to escape that part of them when it's happening. There's no thrill in it, come on. So when Denise is talking about her kidnapping, and how gentle and almost nice this guy is with her, just in general, walking her to the bathroom and being like courteous of her. She's like, okay, this is kind of weird. And then there's the part where he comes in and he's like, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to R-word you and videotape it. And I'm thinking in my
Yeah.
head, his associates said that he's supposed to do this. I'm like, no, they didn't. No one's doing this. This is this guy. This is what he wants to do. And then the way she describes her thought process during this time, how she disassociates, like she's watching herself and just to mentally escape. I'm wondering, I'm like, is this really happening? Or is she reliving her trauma of when she was a child? Like, you just don't know what is actually going on. But this poor girl, this happens to her.
Yeah,
And Michael, you take it from there.
I was just gonna say, like, and we'll dive more into like what she described in the house, but kind of with the back to the whole police. I mean, this was just basically 2 days after she came back home. Just 2 days after, a press conference was held, and because they believed that this was a hoax, they said that they found no evidence of or proof of a kidnapping in any type of way. And the fact of the matter was, they didn't want to. They never looked into
Nope.
it. They were so fixated and tunnel visioned on Aaron and Denise making this up, setting us up for, and to Denise's point, for what reason? Like, what is the gain out of doing all this? Um, but I think one of the things that was also disturbing of many was the press conference that was held, um, basically saying that resources were taken away from the city, and all kinds of stuff was taken away for absolutely nothing because this was a hoax, and basically just dragging Denise and Aaron's name, but especially Denise's name, through the mud, like just in front of everybody, in front of the world at this point. Because I know CNN covered it, Fox covered it, like it was a her name is just getting dragged through the mud. um Also, one of the things that really that had me wondering too is that at this point of the episode, is this a hoax or not? Was the anonymous emails also that came
Yes,
in,
lots.
that still has me kind of scratching my head. Basically, the emails were saying that Denise's abduction was real. Please believe her. Um, if you don't believe her, I'll do this again. And it was just very weird, because what kidnapper does that? And it's multiple emails, to the point of where he's starting to describe himself. Like,
Yes.
like low key trying to turn himself. I'm like, what do you like? I'm just like, this is so weird. Like, what kidnapper would do this? Like, if anybody would perform any type of sickening thing like this and thought that they could get away with it, they would not be emailing journalists or anybody with. I mean, it was just weird. It's so weird and so hard to like wrap your head around. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, what did you think about those emails? Because at this point, once those came in, I was like, all right, I'm back on the other fence now. Like, what the hell is going on?
Oh, well, yeah, at that point, you're thinking, is it a hoax? Why exactly? Why would a kidnapper want to defend the person he kidnapped? And also, why did he even let her go in the first place? And then when you find out the character of the kidnapper, it's even more confusing, because I've never heard of anything like this before. I've never heard of a person like this before. Um, but the way they made her look like a monster without even looking into the case or investigating anything. This is why folks, oh god, and how the media gets told whatever. The truth doesn't matter. They want their story, and they want their story to be like this hot story. It was a hoax, it's a hoax, it's a hoax. It's all lies. The media is BS. All of it. Don't trust it. God. You
Don't trust
can't.
it. And the sad thing is, like, do you trust law enforcement at this point? Like, it makes people, you hear these stories of especially like men in general telling women, like, if something happens to you, you need to come forward, you need to do this, you need to do that. And then you see situations like this, it's tough to come forward in general for anybody.
Mhm.
But when I mean, it's hard for me to explain, because I'm a man, so like it's different. I feel like you can explain it better, but I guess the only thing I would say would be, what woman would want to come forward and, one, relive a very traumatic experience in her life and try to tell the truth, to basically be looked in the eyes by people that are supposed to protect us and protect them, and basically say you're a liar?
Mhm.
Who would want to do that? And it's
Mhm.
stories like this that bring light to those situations. And I feel like it's a double-edged sword, because they need to be called out for not doing their due diligence and listening to Denise in general. but also it's like it also could, women can look at this, or anybody could look at this and be like, wow, do I trust the police? Do I come forward? Like, is it even worth it? So it's like a double-edged sword in the situation. But at the end of the day, I do think it's important that Denise does tell her story, and the fact that
Oh, yeah.
this is out there, because they need to be held accountable, and they never were. And we'll jump into that at the very end. But jumping back into the kidnapping story, I think you kind of left off of the first situation to where she was sexually harassed. Unfortunately, it happened twice, to where she was sexually assaulted.
Mhm.
Basically, he ended up coming back in, I want to say the next day, um,
Mhm.
and said that his associates said that it wasn't good enough and that they're going to have to do it again. And basically, it unfolds the same way. And after the second time, for whatever reason, this sick man has going on in his head, he tells Denise, or it might have been after the first time, that she could take her goggles off. So
Yeah.
she does end up taking her goggles off, and she describes the room that she's in. The windows are blocked. All that stuff she kind of dives into and explains, and he ends up coming back into the room, and she puts her goggles back on. And basically he tells her that it's time, and he takes her in his car, and they drive, and he tells her that I can't take you back to where you're living now because there's so much police there, so I'm going to take you to where you grew up in Huntington Beach. And that is where he drops her off, says count to 10 after you hear the car pull off, and then be on your way. Take whatever off the goggles off, and you'll be on your way. And that's where we get that live video of her walking up the street, or that alley, to the Huntington Beach house. And that's kind of how everything happened, as far as Denise explaining how the kidnapping went, and her experience in that situation. And yeah, I want to say that is pretty much it for episode 2, is explaining that, and just how to this point, that they don't believe her at all.
Right, and then you realize later why she was calm during the phone call, and why she was calm walking to the house, because she drank all that NyQuil and she was all drugged up again. And during the phone call and during her getting home, she was like, she was sedated both those times.
Yeah.
Because everyone's, why is everyone so calm? It's like, well, they're drugged. This guy,
Yeah.
for some reason, just kept drugging, I guess, to keep her docile. But
Pretty
yeah.
much. Pretty much
Mhm.
so. And yeah, and then we kind of jump into episode 3, and episode 3 is titled The Others. And up until this point, the press conference was held where basically Denise was dragged through the mud. At this point, it's a hoax. At this point, Denise and Aaron are thinking, um, man, should we go into hiding, because she's getting messages on her Facebook and all kinds of stuff of calling her a whore, a slut, she needs to die, all the negative things that people do, unfortunately, on the internet. And it's just like, man, I mean, this is national news at this point. Um, so they're just like, should we just go into hiding? Yeah. Do you have anything else on episode 2 before we kind of go into the short episode of 3?
No, I think it was episode 3 where everything starts like unfolding and being like, okay, this is what really happened. This is wow.
Yeah. So at this point, it's just like you don't know what to think. The police are being shitty no matter what. Because even dragging them through the mud on live TV, after not even really investigating the case at all,
No.
outside of just targeting Denise and Aaron, and basically saying that it's a hoax.
Mhm.
And that was around the end of March, the beginning of June. And then June 5th, 2015, the Alameda County Sheriff's Office responds to a home invasion robbery, where a suspect was identified. Early in the morning, the sheriff department responded to a report of a home invasion robbery. And during the investigation, detectives identify a subject of that home invasion who turns out to be involved with multiple home invasions, one
Mhm.
including Denise and Aaron.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's at this point where things are starting to get put together. the caveat of this, of how this man was caught, was leaving his cell phone behind at this last home invasion that we just talked about. And I believe the sheriff department ended up calling the mother on the phone, and she basically, they were just playing it cool, asking whose phone this was, and we got the name of a Matthew Muller or Mueller. I think it's Muller. I don't Muller. Matthew Muller was the name that was given to the sheriff's office, and they basically asked the mom, "Do you know where he is?" And she said, "Yes, he is at our getaway house or our vacation house." Where was that at? I forgot where that was. Do you remember where that was?
No, but it was close enough to all these incidences where it's like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it was pretty close. I can't remember. Anyways, so they have a suspect involved with this latest home invasion. They know of a location, and basically they say, "Look, we're gonna go snag this guy before he catches wind." And this is shortly after. It's the next day after this home invasion happened. Well, it's the same day because it happened early in the morning around 5 a.m. So the sheriff's office shows up to this house that's like right on the lake. Right on the lake, and there's a story behind that as well that makes you mad. They go into the house. They show true body cam again of them going inside of this house, where they end up finding Matthew, just like his mother said he would be. They ended up arresting him, and at this point, they're going all through the house. The house is absolutely disgusting. There's shit everywhere, all in the bathroom. There's NyQuil bottles, a bunch of NyQuil bottles, and in the bathroom. You go into the bedroom. There's all kinds of weird shit on the bed. And then the cops find these guns that are fake and have been painted black. And one of the guns really sticks out. And on that gun was a laser that was said to be shined in this latest home invasion. But also, if you remember, Denise and Aaron said that they had a red laser shined in their face as well. And yeah, I will let you take over, Marie, from this point.
Well, in the latest home invasion too, the guy tried to kidnap their daughter, and the dad fought him off. So this is going to be another kidnapping, exactly the same way as what happened to Denise and Aaron. The cops, and this is all, and then everything to their story they owe to that one female police officer from this other. What is she? Yes. I forgot her name. I forgot her name
too. I need to find it because her name needs to be mentioned.
Yes, because she's a hero. She is a hero, and everything that comes to light is because of her. And they find, okay, this is why I don't think there's anybody else involved in that. It's just this one Matthew guy, because they found a blow-up doll dressed in all black with a male mask on it in the trunk. And the reason why I think he has that is because I think he has those in the people's rooms when he's kidnapping them to make it look like there's more than one of him.
Yep.
Like there's more than one person there. So that's what that seemed like to me. They find goggles with a blonde hair on it. And this is when this one woman police officer is like, I'm going to find out whose hair this is, because this clearly wasn't this other girl's hair, because her hair was like dark. We need to find out how many times this happened, like whatever. So she starts investigating this, and this Matthew Muller, who is a law school graduate and ex-military.
Ex-military.
So, and this all fits the bill of everything that he told to Denise when she was kidnapped. He told her that he was ex-military. Yep. He told her he has insomnia. He told her all these things. So at this point, you're like, how was none of this? Like, how did because the police didn't investigate anything. But anyway, So this starts now. The investigation gets crazy because this one female officer, if you know her name yet,
No, I
Mhm.
don't. I'm still
Oh,
looking. But also, when they're at the house, they also find a stolen vehicle, which is a white Mustang, which Denise said the car that she was thrown into in the back of the trunk sounded like a Mustang.
and when she got out of the car, she can kind of see a little bit through her goggles the white of the car. So she knew this was the car. And in the car, there was GPS for the places he's been. It's just ridiculous how easy it could have been to find this guy. Oh,
Yep.
it's
They
maddening.
Yeah, that was the thing that stuck out to me too, is when they originally brought Denise, or I'm sorry, Aaron in, they put his phone on airplane mode. They put his phone on airplane mode, and all they had to do, once they and at this point, you know that Aaron was in talks with the kidnapper early that morning before he went to the police. So why would the police put the phone in airplane mode with the chance of that kidnapper contacting Aaron again? Like, why would you do that? Like, that would be a lead that you can go up off of. But instead, they put the phone on airplane mode, and at this point, all they had to do was leave Aaron's phone alone, and they could have tracked that, like, that text message or call or whatever it was, back to pretty much the exact place where Denise
Yeah.
was being held. And that was a huge ball drop from the Valero police. But like I said, they had it made up in their mind that
Hmm.
this was a hoax. So
Hmm. I know they could have saved. They
yeah.
could have saved her. She wouldn't have been assaulted that second time. It's devastating. Devastating.
Yeah, so I mean, at this point, Matthew is arrested, and yeah, the sheriff officer is, I can't find her name, and it's really bothering me, but she is a hero, and the fact that that she did not give up on finding who this blonde hair that she found in the goggles was linked to. Like, huge shout out to her. Um,
Hmm.
she ended up getting a tip of Denise's case, and she contacted the Valero Police Department. Could not get in touch with them. Finally, got in touch with them and said that they are no longer investigating it. And they contacted the FBI. Ended up getting a meeting with the FBI after a bunch of BS and um, presented over a lot of the evidence that was found and saw how much evidence was linked between this latest home invasion to Denise and Aaron's home invasion. The one that stuck out was the exact same gun with the laser and the
Hmm.
goggles that Denise and Aaron were saying was put on their face that kind of got shrugged off. All that lined up. So
The cop's name was Misty Caruso. Misty
okay,
Caruso. You are a
hero.
hero. She to me also, I'm thinking like, do these counties and cities in California not watch each other's news? Do the police forces in within California not have access to each other's files and stuff? Because this Matthew Mueller has a record because he for sexual assault, I think, and
Yeah,
attempted
sexual
sexual
assault.
stuff,
Yeah,
fraud, and I think when he was like being a lawyer, like tons of stuff on him. There was another thing right before Denise was kidnapped in their area. There was this peeping Tom guy on the loose.
yeah,
And it's like
yeah.
maybe the cops wouldn't think like, oh, maybe it's this guy. Like maybe we should investigate this more because there has been a peeping Tom type guy. And then when you start getting to know about this Matthew Mueller guy who honestly looks exactly like Ted Bundy, it's
It does.
frightening how much he looks like Ted Bundy.
Very
Uh,
creepy.
his whole personality is extremely bizarre. He's bipolar. And this is why it's weird when you're like, oh, he sending emails and being like, oh, she's not telling a hoax. She's actually like innocent in this. I'm the one who did it. It's like this guy, I'm not saying he has any excuse for his behavior, but he seems to be torn between this bipolar like monster and also having a conscience because he did attempt to sexually assault another woman at one point and she begged him and said this has happened to me before and he was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is, I won't do it to you, this is what you need to do to protect yourself, get a dog. It's almost like he
Something's
is that
definitely wrong
something's
in his head, because I
yeah.
also think I also think it could be a situation like I saw they showed old videos of of him as well, like when he was giving interviews as far as being a lawyer back in the day or something. It made me think, like, is he trying to show people how corrupt the system is in a very fucked up shitty way? Like, no excuse at all, absolutely
Mm-mm.
not. I'm just saying, like, what is going through this guy's head? Like, maybe who knows? Who knows? He's a sick individual that made terrible decisions and terrible mistakes that he deserved to be punished for, and a lot more than what I think he got,
Yeah.
personally. But it's just a very, yeah, he was, it made sense of now, once you hear that, you definitely think something's wrong with him in his brain, obviously. But the fact that he was going back and forth with stuff, now the emails make sense. Now the text
Yes.
messages stuff starts to make sense now, because it does sound crazy in a way. But at the end of the day, whether you believe Aaron or Denise or not, because I was torn at the beginning of the situation. As a police officer in a police force, you do the due diligence of innocent until proven guilty. And Aaron walked into that room guilty before anything.
Oh yeah.
So
Oh yeah. I don't even know if innocent until proven guilty it exists
yeah.
anymore. And this whole thing was a complete failure of the what how do I word that? Like the police and the
Yeah.
FBI, like everything. It was just it's so sad seeing how much their lives were ruined and seeing Denise and her past and her like very sad past of sexual assault and everything like that, and no one ever believing her. and
Yeah.
and like you said, what do I have to do to make people believe me? And
Yeah, that
thank you,
was,
Misty Caruso. Thank you. You did it.
yeah, I think one of the things that stuck with me through this as well was seeing Denise walk up to the press conference with Aaron and stand behind their lawyer. I really wanted her to speak so bad, but I understand in that situation why she wouldn't. She said she wanted to, and there was a lot of things that she wanted to say, look in every camera and tell everybody how wrong they were. And that just stuck with me because, it, like, this poor woman went through a very traumatic experience, her husband as well, but especially her. And she was basically brought in and looked at to by authorities and said that you're a liar and we don't
Mhm.
believe you.
Yeah,
So
and
it's just sad.
not even just the authorities, but the media and all of her
Yeah.
friends, probably people in her
Hmm.
family. And this
The
just
world.
shows like, yeah, the world. And this just shows like how people's minds can be so easily made up. And I'm not innocent in this because during the first couple episodes, I'm like, well, who was it? Is it him? Is it her?
Same.
Like,
Yeah.
but it shows like how people can have their minds so made up depending on what is told to them and shown to them, and anything could be shown to you and told to you in any way to
Yep.
like benefit one side, and then it's like
Exactly.
you don't know what the truth is. And like for them, I feel so bad for them. Who How do you trust authority at all anymore? How do you trust anything at all anymore? The police are supposed to have to serve and protect, to protect you, and they're supposed to have your best interests at heart, and they don't. All they care about is getting someone in jail. They don't care about you. It's not about people. It's not ever about that. Like, how do you trust anybody anymore in your life? Like, that's to
Yeah.
just break you. It broke me watching it. It didn't even happen to
Same.
me.
Yeah.
It's like for every like 10, 20 people, there's like one good one. Like, not saying all police are bad and can't be trusted, because obviously Misty and also a man she worked with, you could trust them. They actually did the work. But there's some really bad pe- people in authority
Yeah.
you just can't trust. Like, it's just insane. It's
No,
so sad.
I agree. It was definitely a roller coaster, of emotions for sure. Crazy, crazy true story that happened. And you said it perfectly. So on June 16th, 2017, Mueller was sentenced to 40 years in prison, for the kidnapping case, and Denise and Quinn were awarded $2.5 million in a settlement with the Vallejo Police Department. And outside of that settlement, none of the police officers were held accountable. Nobody lost their job. Mr. Mustard fucking won Officer of the Year that year. Like, so sickening. And it makes you, like, I don't know, it makes you like very sick to your stomach. And like, officer of what? Being a fucking asshole, a piece of shit. Cause honestly, I don't talk about people like that, but that's exactly what he was. Like, and for that department to award him Officer of the Year, like, are you kidding me? It's
The
it's just
anger.
yeah.
The anger that I had watching it, like this show made me, I was bawling my eyes out. I was so mad. And then it's also like so beautiful at the end because her and
Yeah,
Aaron get married and they have 2 daughters. I just start crying
they do.
again.
Yeah, two beautiful daughters, and of course, me like true story. As soon as the documentary ended, I'm on their Facebook pages looking at them, and I'm seeing all the happy moments that they're able to share with the kids, and it's just like I don't know, it's just super sad, and it makes you grateful for like all the great things that happen in your life, and the fact that this terrible thing happened to them, for them to be strong enough to go through it and deal with it, when they shouldn't have had to. Like they should have had the back of authorities, and they just didn't. But made me happy to see where they are now in life, and the fact
Mhm.
that this documentary was made. So, any final thoughts from you, Marie, as we kind of wrap up the episode?
Um, I think it's important, even though like we just basically told you everything that happened. It's like I think it's important for people to watch this just to see how you are guilty until proven innocent, and you need to just like be strong if under the pressure like that, and to see like how you know what, maybe you can't trust police or authority in the media. Maybe you just can't. Maybe you should just have your, you know, like I think it's important to watch to
Yeah,
see how terrible um the like, justice system could be. Like they only got 2.5 million. They deserve way more than that
way
for
more than that.
defamation, like way more. But I think it's an important documentary to watch. Also for women, even though people or women or anyone who suffers sexual assault, not just women, but to always speak out all the time. And there's gonna be lots of people who won't listen, but all it takes is one Misty Caruso to listen, and then you know what? That's what you need to know. There are good people out there, even though a lot of people are crappy. But I'll always, what do they say? Speak your truth, I guess.
Yeah, speak your truth. Speak your truth, no matter how hard it could be.
Yeah.
Um, so Marie, that's gonna wrap up episode 51. I appreciate you coming on here and giving me your raw emotion and opinions, because it is a tough story to talk about. That's the tough thing with true crime. Like we're all indulged in it in some type of way, no matter what that reasoning is. And I think that you did a great job today explaining, why that this story kind of, set with you, and all of those things. So we appreciate everybody tuning in to episode 51. Marie, where can everybody follow you at?
Oh, you can find my podcast on my YouTube channel, Not a Strong Start. And we're also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Instagram and Twitter. But you can follow me personally at Marie Plays It All on Instagram.
All right, everybody. Appreciate y'all tuning in to episode 51, and I will see you on the next one.